Tank Abbott just came in, snuck in behind Scott Steiner, and knocked him out cold with one punch. Scott sold it tremendously.
Yep.
Did you spend much time with Tank Abbott?
Enough. I really like Tank. And Tank was a guy, and I know, well, I don't know. I feel like he probably got painted with a bunch of bad brushes that, oh, he can't do this and can't do that. There was a time in WCW when his music hit and Tank walked through the curtain, everybody in the arena stood up. He was such a unique, kind of different presentation. Now, of course, over a short period of time, the wheels came off. It was a disaster. But what a unique character. It's something that a little bit of Tank goes a long way. Tank is a character that can be overexposed. We talked about it earlier, Eric being overexposed. No, Eric can talk and tell stories. He's just kind of a different kind of character, different kind of talent. But for sure, for absolute sure, Tank in small doses is good TV.
Sting is making an appearance here with Mean Gene Okerlund. I wanted to ask you about Tank Abbott because he came in with an MMA background and obviously had been a star in the UFC. On the other channel, Ken Shamrock had done the same thing a few years prior. Do you think Tank Abbott's fate in wrestling could have been different if he wound up going to the WWF rather than WCW? Or was it going to be what it was going to be no matter where he was?
Good question. Tank Abbott, would his career have been different in the WWE? Obviously, yes. Would the window, first off, would he have even gotten an opportunity up there? I doubt it. Had he gotten the opportunity, the windows would have been much, much smaller. But going back to your kind of last comment, I think it was what it was. But again, I'm going to say timing is everything. And, Tank's lack of professional wrestling experience was going to catch up to him just because the nature of the beast. But his lack of opponents, and I'm saying opponents built specifically for Tank, therein lies your kind of downfall. Nothing was ever planned to get him to a certain stage where we're going to pay money to see Tank have this one big match, to my recollection.
Real shit show happening in the ring here. Dave Pinzer's in the ring, and we've got three different tag teams. We've got the Mama Lukes, who are being managed by Disco Inferno. We've got the Harris twins, and we've got the new Harlem Heat. Maybe they were Harlem Heat 2000, but it's Stevie Ray and not Booker T, but the former Ahmed Johnson. And then, of course, here comes Chronic. But I want to talk a little bit about Harlem Heat. I think we all know that Booker T has become one of the biggest stars in WCW history and their most decorated performer in the history of the company. But that left Stevie behind, much like a Bret Hart, Jim the Anvil Neidhart deal. So he's looking for a new tag team partner. And we know eventually he lands with the former Ahmed Johnson, the real life Tony Norris. But when you were in the WWF, man, people felt like Ahmed was going to be maybe the next big thing. He had the Intercontinental title run. He was in some main events, brushing up against guys like Shawn Michaels and the Ultimate Warrior. I mean, it felt like he was destined to be a huge star in the WWF. Maybe the injury bug hit him. Maybe he developed a reputation for being reckless or dangerous and hurting guys. That's all the rumor and innuendo. I want to know from your perspective, why didn't Ahmed Johnson become a bigger star? Because I was excited to see him here in WCW, but it didn't look like he was the Ahmed of old. What say you?
In WWF, and I don't know if you're asking just about WCW, but in WWF, man, what an opportunity he had. And that was the period of time, if you remember, that I'd gone home and he'd come in, and that would have been late 95, all of 96. But man, therefore, a period of time, they pushed him to the moon. And I'll say, was he like we've kind of talked on here, too much too soon. Was he ready to have all that responsibility on him and be able to carry the load in that style? Obviously not. So I'll kind of say, at the end of the day, the cream always rises to the top, and your in ring abilities at some level will they just put limitations on you. And Ahmed could get a reaction. He could do multiple power moves, but kind of put together a 25 minute match. I mean, he didn't want to sell my guitar, didn't want to sell my chair shot. And that was just in a little angle. Well, in a match, you got to be able to give and take, sell back. There's only one Ultimate Warrior, and that was with kid gloves. But later on, Warrior style just was a complete disaster. That's only a short window. We just talked about Goldberg. When you get into that no sell or very limited sell, it just limits everything. And as far as him being Harlem Heat, I had completely forgot that they had put him with Stevie Ray. And hindsight's 2020, but you're never going to follow Booker T. I think they'd been better off to repackage Stevie Ray and put Stevie and Ahmed in a completely new character. But when they walked out as Harlem Heat without Booker T, it was just that. Oh, there's Harlem Heat without Booker. Impossible to get over.
What a segment we've got here. I mean, this is just wild.
Yes.
And it makes me think of this question we got from Mike over on YouTube. He says, what, if anything, did Jeff take away from witnessing the dysfunctional dying days of WCW? And how did he apply those lessons, if any, to running TNA later on?
What, if anything, did Jeff take away from witnessing dysfunction at WCW? Well, goal alignment. Conrad hit it up from the very top. I think at the end of the day, in the Memphis territory growing up, we were forced because of financial terms that you have to really focus on one program, get that over, focus on the second program, then get that over. And my dad would tell these stories in the very pinnacle of the Memphis territory. They had like 6-7 angles that were really over. But he said it all started with getting Lawler's angle over. And then you could get a Dundee angle over, and then maybe a Dutch or a third single babyface. Then you get a tag. And, but you got to focus on getting one story over during this era, and not for lack of effort, and I'll say Russo and Bischoff, I get it, but they were trying to get 5 or 6 stories overs at once. And man, it was really hard. I mean, and I get you got to put matches out, you got to fill time, but just this match we're watching right here, what is this? 5 stories, 6 stories? Who's the big guy in the ring right now, Conrad, in the back right corner?
Is that not one of the Harris boys?
No. Right there in the corner.
Oh, that's with the Mama Luke's. That's Big Vito.
No, maybe our time's off, code's off. I don't know.
Chronic's in there. The Mama Luke's are in there, and Harlem Heat 2000. Those are the folks in the match.
Yeah. There's a second of. Did Harlem Heat have a second that went to the ring with him?
Oh, Swole. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah. Who was he with?
The No Limit Soldiers.
Okay.
And the manager is the former Clarence Mason from the WWF.
There you go.